This story is about one of the most freaking evil people I've ever met in my life, and that's the Catholic priest or whatever they are. Hello and welcome to another fascinating video by Guda. So we're in the prison years now as far as the autobiography goes, and what we're talking about today, I'm telling prison stories in a little bit like, so they're gonna break chronologically, they're going to be kind of a little bit of a mess, because I'm going to tell them in like, you know, like whole story format, and like I did the other day, I explained like the whole leather program from start to finish, right? And that was over the course of a couple maybe 3 years or something, right? So that's how I'm going to kind of tell these stories when applicable, right? And it just because to tell a part of it and then a part of it and then a part of it to stay in order of timeline would just diminish the story quality. So this story is about one of the most freaking evil people I've ever met in my life, and that's the Catholic priest or whatever they are that was in charge of all religions at Nellis Air Force Base. And I don't remember what this guy's name was, but he was epic POS. Like, he was taking pages out of the days when the religious people would wander around the planet and pit, you know, they'd go into a community and they'd pit this part of the community against this part of the community to try to take over eventually, right? Well, that's the same kind of, this guy pitted all the religions there, which there was quite a few. A lot of people get into religion when they're in prison. Now, I mean, I guess I would have to say myself included, but way different kind of, like, I studied paganism because I was curious to what it was about, right? Like, because I have, you know, a superficial knowledge of all the different kinds of religions except for paganism, right? So I wanted to know what it was, know what, you know, I'd done some like pagan ceremonies with the tattoo shop people, and I was just super fun and just made a lot more sense. I mean, they put in like, they were all like, so like skits. It was freaking awesome, right? And it was supposed to like mimic how things used to be. And it was like, you know, I've been to church. Obviously I haven't been to every different kind of church. I've been to a kind of church. So I know Lutheran church stuff-ish, you know. I bought a bunch of books on Wicca in particular, right? Then within the prison, there was a group called Odinists. Odin, so Odin, Thor, Freya, all those old mythological gods, like that religion, Odinism. But it's almost like a prison form, you know, which I you know, just kind of got to know. I didn't really know what was going on. Like, oh, hey, you guys are pagans too? Cool, so am I. I'm studying Wicca, blah, 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 right? So I went to some of their things, and there was a lot more of them. I think I was the only, maybe there was one other Wiccan person there, I don't know. And I was just studying Wicca, and I just went ahead and identified with it because of the, you know, if you're into a religion, you get the religion benefits, basically, in prison. If you're not, like, there's no benefits for atheists. There's no, you know, extra this or extra that. But if your religion is this or that, then you can get, you know, this and that, right? Okay. So one of my friends was this guy Crow, and he was very very Spanish mix of South American Indian, right? But he identified in prison as a Native American, and they had, like, in probably most prisons, because there's a lot of, like, every Native American goes to federal prison because all the reservations are under federal law. So all the Native Americans end up there. So they have sweat lodges for the Native Americans and outdoor worship areas. At Nellis, it was super nice. It was like they had used a bunch of telephone poles, old telephone poles, and built like kind of like a fort looking thing. And then you go on the inside, and they had skin covered, real nice little sweat lodge and landscaping, and I mean, it was really nice. And I did a sweat with them. They had a guest sweat, and I was invited, and I did it, and it was a brutal deal. It was really cool though. So the Odinists were pushing really hard for their own outdoor worship area. I was indifferent. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. What the deal is in prison is, like, if something's going on, somebody's the boss of the thing. Whatever's happening, there's an inmate that's like running the show, right? So there was this dude that came from a higher institution, biker type guy, and so he was like the driving force. Like, he showed up to this prison, like, and this is always what happens. Guys come from higher institutions down to lower institutions. Lower institutions don't have much going on because the guys in the lower institutions aren't the type to fucking just do crazy shit if they don't have blah, 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 whatever, right? In higher institutions, the food's better, the fucking guards are more respectful, and fucking, like, you know, because those guys will kill you, basically. I mean, that's, so they get better stuff. The Odinists push really hard to get an outdoor worship area, okay? I signed their little thing. They, like, a bunch of guys signed like a request or whatever, right? So the Native Americans, they say, we want your thing not attached to our thing at all. So these guys, the Native Americans, they've been in prison a while, and they kind of know what the Odinist thing is, right? So, and I'm, you know, they're not really pulling like racist shit, but I'm starting to kind of see what's going on in the situation. So, you know, there's this big meetup between all the Native Americans and all the Odinists, and I was there. And the Native Americans are like, you know, we want you like 10 feet away from us. We're like, cool, whatever. But then the fucking chaplain comes in, right? And now, this wasn't gonna cost anything. This isn't gonna fucking, like, literally there's a place on the Air Force Base where old telephone poles that have been in the ground for so long get thrown, right? So we can have all the telephone poles we want. But the chaplain is a fucking just evil person. So he wants to pit basically the Native Americans against the Odinists to fuck with them all, because he's Catholic and these pagans are, you know, filth in his opinion and obvious attitude, right? So there's all this bickering. I can't really remember because I wasn't really involved in the bickering part, right? I was starting to kind of back up a little bit and be like, you know, I don't really want to have anything to do with it, because what started to happen was there's this whole, like, I don't remember what the Odinist side of the deal was, because really I was more friends with the Native Americans than I was with the Odinists. I was just in their camp, so there was all this debate and, you know, prison meetings and, I mean, just drama behind this situation. It all got worked out between the prisoners, and then the chaplain decided to just do like the most asshole-ish thing he could possibly think of, which was to have the have this Native American area that had been there forever have one wall of it ripped down, and then the rest of this thing extended, okay? So, and now that became like the fucking, like, you guys have to fucking do this now. Like, we are ordering you to do this shit, right? Like, this plan. Like, there was not like right now or anything like that. So I'm just like, this is fucking bullshit, you know? I'm like, this guy's an asshole. Like, I'm not ripping down those guys' shit. This has nothing to fucking, like, I just signed the paper and it was like, yeah, the Wiccans will use it as the representative of the Wiccans, right? But when it came a fucking situation to where the Native Americans were getting, like, disrespected, basically, and the fucking chaplain was the one that was fucking letting it happen. Like, you know, the only division between these two things was going to be some plants that were going to take forever to fucking grow up big enough to be any kind of a divider. So basically what happened was, there was this one guy, and he was kind of a biker dude, beard, kind of, you know, a little bit of a belly or whatever, and he had been in a USP, right, which is maximum security, or high security. It's a fucked up place to be, right? So this guy comes down, works his way down, now he's in a camp with me, and he thinks he's just gonna fucking, you know, like I'm some... Meanwhile, I've never taken shit from anybody in my entire life except for just a tiny bit in jail, because I wanted to go to a camp. If I would have been fighting in jail, I would have been in a higher security level prison with, like, basically no fucking possibility of escape, which was my whole fucking plan. So all this stuff transpires to where, okay, now it has to be done and all this shit. Well, when do the fucking Odinist dudes decide to start doing the work? Now you have to realize that the fucking the prison had heavy equipment. I mean, like, some big freaking, like, loader, backhoe, dump truck, like, serious stuff that the Air Force had just given the camp to have if they needed to do stuff, you know? So, and this was literally like, as a prisoner, you could I could check out if I've taken the tests whatever heavy equipment I needed, right? And other people. So what happens is these guys start work during a Native American sweat. So these guys really only use the sweat lodge, really, this whole big outdoor thing, like once a week. They have their sweat, there's somebody that takes care of the area, they're allowed to go out there and meditate or any kind of Native American thing they want to do spiritually. That's where you go do it, right? So these fucking asshole Odinists decide to fucking start the work when these guys are doing their sweat. I'm down in the leather room doing whatever, building something, and Crow comes in there just freaking pissed, like just out of his mind pissed, right? And I'm just like, what's up, dude? He tells me what the fuck they're doing, right? So I fucking roll out there, and I get out there, and this biker fucker is in the little bobcat. We also had a bobcat, and he's doing earth shit, right? And I got there and fucking just yelling at him, blah 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 blah. I take off my fucking sunglasses, I set them down, and I'm like, get over here, motherfucker, right? And now we're like over behind the corner of this area, right? So really nobody could see it except for all the Odinists that were there. And I whipped this dude's ass. I mean, I just fucking, I mean, and it was not hard. I mean, he was such a bad fighter, it was pathetic. I mean, literally, like, I took a couple swings at him, I got, like, knocked him in the head a couple times, and then he put his hands up in front of his face, and I kick him in his fucking shins. He'd drop his hands, and I'd punch him in the face. He'd put his arms up, I'd kick him in the shins, he'd drop his hands, I'd punch him in the face. Bam, 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 he's done. Right? I beat this dude's ass, I beat this white motherfucker's ass for the Native Americans. Right? Now, I'm the motherfucker in charge of that whole thing. The Odinists pretty much disbanded and didn't fucking do shit. I had my buddy help me, and we went out there and we fucking dug those ditches and we placed those fucking railroad ties. We went out to the damn pile of railroad ties and we hauled railroad ties. I think we did have some, I think they had already done that. I think we had already done that. So all the Odinists were there to load all the logs there, but then when it came right down to it, they didn't do much of the work at all, right? The wall came down in between the two once the rest of it was finished. Immediately a planter bed went in there. I got trees donated from, I don't remember exactly how it worked, but I was working on some crew on the base, and I was like telling them the story, and I'm like, yeah, we need a landscape, right? So we get these tree things donated. These tree things that we got donated were literally something that they used to make poison out of back in like Roman days to like kill people. Like, I mean, it was just insane that was the plant that, you know. And so the way I built this thing out is it had, you know, this, and then, you know, it's like a big rectangle with a planter in the middle full of these plants, and then 3 of these that were the same plant, but they were in a tree form. They were this trunk, and then they were a bush at the top, and I got 3 of those, right? And I mean, this is desert. So what I did was, we had one spigot for water out there, and it was on one end. So I'd turn it on, and it'd fill this whole bed up with all these, I don't remember the name of the plant, that was going to make a hedge, right? A hedgerow. And then once it filled that and it ran all the way down, it'd run through a little creek, and then it'd fill up this tree well. And then it would fill up that tree well, and then it'd run through another little creek, and then it'd fill up another tree well. And there was 3 of those. And it was actually really freaking cool, because everything would get watered just automatically by turning this one thing on, and you really couldn't overwater stuff out there. So we built a little shelter area out there that covered a little section, because like during the day in the heat, people would go out there, and it turned into like, where like cool people would go out there to meditate, really is what it. So, but in my total construction, I built the freaking, we had all these big ass rocks, right? And so I arranged them in the coolest, I had photos of this too, and this is one of those things that I just, you know, my mom threw them away probably in some stupid drunken rage, right? Well, I literally had pictures of this stuff, right? Snuck in a little disposable camera. So what it was like a pit, rock-lined pit, that you had a path of rocks that you would walk. So there was like 1.5 feet down in the ground, but then you'd step across a path of rocks and come up to another rock that was like a giant, for the lack of a better word, altar, right? That freaked the freaking chaplain out. That, I mean, like, number one, they couldn't figure out how we did it. Like, that was the number one. And all I did was fucking checked out a backhoe, took out a little bit of the wall, put the rocks in there, and stood them up, you know? So they didn't understand how I could have done that. Like, they think I fucking, like, I don't know what kind of stupid shit's going through their head. Like I use witchcraft to levitate fucking rocks or some shit. Like, I wouldn't be in prison if I could fucking use witchcraft to levitate rocks. Yeah, just an FYI. So, because I just levitate myself the fuck up out there. And who the fuck is gonna fuck with somebody that's levitating? Exactly. So, basically, I was gonna get like a fucked up shot. I don't remember what they were gonna do is they were gonna fucking give us all shots and send us to different prisons. It was like fucking like we had just raped somebody or something. I mean, it was, well, maybe it wasn't, or like we were gonna rape somebody or something, you know, I mean, it was fucking ridiculous. There was really no other explanation other than just ridiculous. So they were freaked out by this altar, right? Dude, this thing was so sick. I mean, it was beautiful. And honestly, I don't even think, like, well, yeah, because when I did the Odin stuff with those guys, one of them would get up and stand there and read stuff from something. So, you know, I could have gone like that, you know. But I don't think in Wicca, but it was just so cool. I mean, it was a freaking work of art out of rocks, right? In the desert. So, anyway, this chaplain, he was a legendary just POS. Like, just evil to anybody that wasn't a prepubescent looking little boy. And boy, did he have those little boy-looking boys that were in prison were his clerks. Yeah. Catholic, you gotta, you know, I mean, that's the way those Catholics roll. It became, you know, when that whole thing was at its peak, there was some Native Americans there that had come down from higher institutions that were used to things being a certain way. There was And then on the other side too, well, a lot of those dudes were like just getting down the lower institution right before they got out. Like they, you know, they got these guys up here, and the feds, they seem to give a little more of a fuck on trying to have people reconditioned from their torturous, nightmarish hell, slavery, fucking prison system into real world, right? So they put them in lower and lower institutions and then get them out. So a lot of this drama and a lot of these people that were involved in this whole thing were gone in not very long. You know, I was doing my whole sentence at this prison. You could be in a prison camp with up to 10 years left on your sentence, right? So there was people in there that would show up with 10 years left, you know? So, but there was also dudes that would show up there with like, you know, a year, 6 months or something like that. And they'd already been in 15 years and 10 years and all that, all higher institutions, right? So the dynamic changed, and a lot of, I mean, it became to where like there was hardly any Native Americans. There was like no Odinists. And the whole dynamic of that situation changed to where what was going on out there was like meditation people, kung fu, tai chi. On the down low though, some of that stuff I think was a no-no. Stoners would be out there. People would get stoned out there, dip out there to smoke weed for real quick, and you know, that camp got closed down probably within like a year or something like that of me being out of there. They just shut that whole thing. I think they shut them all down across the whole country because there was like 6 of them on Air Force bases, all kind of the same story. But I think they basically used 9/11 as an excuse to close them down, because I mean, they were crazy security risks. I mean, holy shit. I mean, just to give you a fucking, just give you, like, if I was a terrorist person, I could have fucking blown up B-level bombers, right? So they literally, I was working on a fucking Air Force base at the golf course where there was piles and piles, pallets and pallets of ammonium nitrate and ginormous tanks full of diesel fuel. Literally. Keys to tractors, dump trucks, you know. I mean, yeah. And then the fucking, the damn golf course was like right up to the runway. So I mean, I literally could have made a fertilizer bomb and driven it right onto the runway. And I mean, I think the pinnacle I ever was like standing like right there, and there was like 3 of the stealth big bombers, right? 3 of them, oh, right next to each other. Just amazing, right? Well, you know, obviously to fucking do all that, I mean, and I would never do anything like that, but I as an intelligent person that knows about all kinds of stuff, I look at stuff and go, holy, that's freaking, like, somebody could actually, you know, do blah 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 and blah blah blah, you know. The type of people that would do that, they don't really end up in camps though. So somebody that just thinks about the stuff and was like, oh man, you know. Anyway, so there's another story about the federal prison system. Like and subscribe, and head on over to Patreon if you want. That'll be sweet. Have a great day.